With the recent popularity of AI systems like ChatGPT and others, there have been questions as to whether AI can replace programmers. I mean, we already have AI systems that can do everything from video editing, note-taking, and even give legal advice, though I personally wouldn't trust it. What's stopping us from building an AI system that writes code and builds software? ChatGPT already does some of this. You can ask it to write a code snippet that does something specific, and it spits out actual code that you can run, which is very impressive. There is also GitHub Copilot that provides autocomplete suggestions from an AI pair programmer as you code. It's also pretty accurate. You type a comment for what you want the code snippet to do, and it suggests a block of code that does it, or at least gives you a starting point. Very impressive as well. From the looks of things, we already have AI systems capable of writing or generating code that works. What's stopping them from fully replacing software developers? While AI systems are very impressive in what they can do, there are a few drawbacks and specific hindrances that prevent them from replacing human programmers for another 10 to 20 years at least. Let's talk about them. AI systems lack creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills, all of which a programmer must have. You see, AI systems run primarily on data. We're talking petabytes and petabytes of data. GitHub Copilot uses a model created by OpenAI that is trained from billions of lines of open source code found on the internet. This is great because it is able to learn and predict what you may be trying to do from all those data points it has been trained on, but at the end of the day, it is still limited by that data. When you ask an AI system to write code for something simple like calculating the average of 3 numbers, it is able to do this because there's already code snippets on the internet that does this. If you ask it to give you a code snippet that sends messages to an Azure service bus, it does this pretty well too because there's documentation that shows how to do this directly from the Azure website. The code already exists and it's open source. Now let's ask it to do something more complicated, like writing a function that transfers my music playlist from Spotify to Apple Music. It knows what I'm asking for, but doesn't know how to fully do it, and it tells me. It'll instead suggest using a third-party tool that does it for me, or suggest code snippets I can use to get my playlist from Spotify and transfer them to Apple Music. P.S. The code doesn't work. The actual solution is way more complicated than what it has given me. There might be code available on the internet that does this, but that code is a bit more complicated than calculating the average of 3 numbers. It requires critical thinking and problem-solving skills involving multiple steps and tons of consideration. It may also look like I just made up a hard problem with a solution that doesn't exist, but transferring music from Spotify to Apple Music is a project I worked on a couple of years back. The code for it is on GitHub, and I'll link the videos where I explain how to do it above in the cards and down in the description. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, then a sub to the channel would be electric. I might have also not explained the problem properly to the AI system, which is a whole different kind of worms right there, because even if I did, who's to say the system actually understands what I'm asking for? AI systems lack the ability to understand context the same way a human does, and this is extremely important in software development. Software development in a professional setting is never only about the programmer. There's a customer, product manager, designers, and more. There's always a back and forth between all parties involved in building the project. Humans have a deep understanding of the business domain, user needs, and ethical consideration, all of which are essential for creating software that actually solves the problem and creates value for the customer. It's easier to give your requirements to a person who understands context and can ask clarifying questions. All while doing my research for this video, I asked ChatGPT to write some code snippets for multiple things, and throughout the process, it never once asked me one clarifying question. It literally took what I asked, interpreted it its own way, and gave me what it thought was best. Some of what I asked were also open-ended questions and could have meant multiple things. Requirements change and humans understand this, so software systems are usually built and designed in a way to accommodate those changes. AI systems aren't quite there yet. A typo in inputting the requirements to an AI system can cause the system to build and design code that does something completely different. At the end of the day, it's a computer and it's going to do what you ask it to. Garbage in, garbage out. This is something a human could have caught because they understand context. If the AI manages to build a system, there are still things it won't be able to do, like debugging and testing. As programmers, we understand the use case of the software we built, so we code it in a way that can be easily tested. If something goes wrong, we can debug it. AI systems are incapable of self-improvement or learning a new way of doing something without being specifically programmed or trained for it using data. Asking an AI system to debug its own code would be a very interesting conversation to see. From the AI's point of view, it's not wrong. It has done what you asked it to, but it's clearly not what you want. AI systems are also really expensive. They require tons and tons of resources, from processing power to train the model to storage needed to store all that data. That's a lot of cost to incur, and it's not feasible for many companies to train a model to write code for the company's specific use case. It's way more cost effective to hire an actual person capable of learning to do the job than to incur all the cost for a system that may or may not work. The role of AI systems today as it relates to programming is to augment the workforce. They make the job easier, and everyone should be using them to supplement their knowledge and write code time by having access to a vast amount of data. They're able to process the data at a rate that is impossible for any human to do. That's their greatest strength and also their greatest weakness, because they can only do as much as the data they have. This leads them to lack creativity, critical reasoning, and problem-solving skills, all of which are essential skills every programmer should have. There will come a time when AI systems will be smart enough to write flawless code that does everything we want, ask questions to clarify ambiguity, and learn from feedback that doesn't require retraining them, but that day is not today or anytime soon. That's it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, then consider subscribing. If you want to support the channel, be sure to check out the merch store at umacodes.com/shop, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and on TikTok for shorter form content like this and to stay up to date. Catch you on the next one. Peace.